Alright, welcome. This is Jason. Call myself Rashawn. In this lab here, we're going to create some groups, automate adding users, and add policies to groups, all using IAM. We'll do a mix of automating it and doing it manually. So right now we're going to pull into IAM right here. We're going to create 4 groups. We'll first show how to do it manually. So we go over to user groups right here under IAM, and we're going to create a group, and we're going to name it Cloud Admin. And down here we can add users to the group, which we'll do a bit later, and we can also attach policies. So at the beginning here, we're going to give the Cloud Admin group administrator access, and we'll create the user group, and we see that it is added. We're going to create 4 groups in total. That's how you create a group in IAM. However, we're going to go with the automation route here. We're going to use code in order to add the groups that we want. So we're going to delete this group right here, and we're going to open up Visual Studio Code here. We've got a script here that will run this for us, and here it is. It'll be create groups with policy, bit of a batch script right here. So up at the top, this shows that this is a batch script right here, and we're going to declare 4 policies right here, or 4 groups. That'll be Cloud Admin, DBA, Linux Admin, and Network Admin. As you can see here, each of the 4 groups will be attached or have different policies attached to them. So Cloud Admin will get administrator access, DBA group will get the RDS full access, Linux Admin will have the full EC2 access, and the Network Admin will have the full VPC access. And this for loop right here will just iterate over all of the group policies, and it will add each one of these groups to it and then show us that it's been added. So if this were to be done in the Cloud Shell, you'd make this executable, but it'll be that here. So we're going to copy this down here in order to run the script, and it will do so. As you can see there, all 4 groups have been made, and the policies have been added to them as well. So Cloud Admin here, and the policies have been attached, as you can see there. So for each one of the 4, it has been added. So now that we go back to IAM right here, and all 4 of the groups have been created, and we refresh here, and their policies have been added as well. So we'll take a look at Linux Admin as well. It's got full EC2 access. We're now going to allow each group, so all the users in these groups, we're going to allow them to change their password. So for that, we are going to go to add permissions and attach policies, and we're going to look for the add IAM change password policy. It's IAM change password. So we'll do that and attach the policy, and we can do that for each one of the 4 as well, but we're going to go back into Python, or rather Bash, and do that again. So we'll take a look here. We've got a Bash script here that says, this one, add IAM user change password here. So we've got our account ID at the top. This is up here. Of course, you got the account ID. It needs the account ID in order to know what account to add the policy to. We've got the list of groups. So we've got Cloud Admin, DBA, Linux Admin, Network Admin. And this will be the policy to add to each one of those groups. So variable here, it'll add this policy to them all. First it checks to see if the group exists, and then the for loop will add the name of the policy to each group. And now we will run this at IAM just to type enough so that it tabs out there. And press enter. So you see there it checks if the group exists, and then it'll attach the policy to each one of the 4 groups. It is done there. So now we'll take a look at Cloud Admin, and as you can see here, the IAM user change password policy has been added. So now we're going to add a list of users to the IAM right here. We've got some that are predisposed. However, we've got a Excel sheet of users to add in here. And there are 100 users in this Excel sheet. However, we will, for testing purposes here, truncate all of this. Actually, first, so we don't lose this file, we're going to save this as a different name here. So users2, we're going to keep that as an Excel file, and then we'll delete these users right here. It's actually important to right click and delete these cells, not to press escape, because when we make it into a CSV a bit later, it'll be full of commas. So now I'll do Control F, and at this point we don't need the names, but we do need the email, we do need the team, and we do need to give each one of these users a password. So we're going to give each one of these users the very secure password of ChangeMe12345 Obviously, nobody would think of that. And we're going to also change the team names to reflect what we have inside IAM. So for database admin, we'll switch that to DBA. Network admin will take care of the space right there. Change this to cloud admin. Remove the space from Linux admin and remove the space from database admin. And in the email list here, we're gonna take a look at abc.com or abccompany.com. And we're going to remove the email portion and rename this user. All right, so these will be the 5 users that we will pass in. So now we're going to make this into a CSV file. So we'll go to File, Save As, that in your project folder there, and we're gonna we could do that, but we want to pick CSV comma delimited. There are a few here. There's UTF comma delimited, MS-DOS, Macintosh, but we want to pick comma delimited for this one. So we'll save that as that. And now we will go into Cloud Shell to upload that CSV and automate the addition of new users. So we're gonna do a couple of commands right here. First off, I'm gonna type this command sudo yum install DOS to Unix -y, and what this will do is convert plain text files from Windows format to Unix format, of course, since Cloud Shell is Linux based. And then we're going to upload this script right here that is stored in a S3 bucket, and this script will allow us to iterate through each one of those users and add them to our users. And we have the code here as well, actually. So this is what the code is. And basically, it checks to see if DOS to Unix is installed. So it is dependent on it being installed. And in this while loop right here, it will create the user. It'll create the password for the user and require the user to change their password upon first login. And it will check for the group name and add it to the user. And then that ends the while loop right there. So that's what it's going to do there. So first of all, we're going to check to see what we have in the directory. And we have the AWS IAM create user bash file here. Now we have one more, which this is a bit of a duplicate. As you can see, the one that was downloaded here does not have execute privileges to it. Now, if there was no duplicate, what we would do was make sure that it is executable. So we would do this command here, which would make this bash script able to be executed, which you can see right here. See RWX. All the X's mean it's executable. We don't need to do that because it's already executable. And now we will upload the user2.csv file there that we created. In fact, I put an extra dot on it by accident. So remove that. And it seems like we already uploaded it. See, it's already here. So we'll just run the script right now, but if you didn't have it in there, it would say that it's successfully uploaded. As you can see, it is there already. So first we'll run the script. So we'll do the ./ and then press tab to bring this up, and users2.csv, and then we'll run that. There were some errors at the top right there. However, the users have been made. And when we take a look at the users here in IAM, we'll refresh that list. And the list of users that we had before have now been added. As you can see there, we've got Jane Doe, we've got Michael Scott, Barbara Brown at the top, Brian Garcia, and Philip Jack. So there's more than one way to add users to IAM. You can do it manually, or you can do it through scripts. So right now, we're going to log into Brian Garcia. Right now, we're going to open an incognito window here and go to AWS. Sign a existing account, IAM user. We will copy this number over here and paste that. And then we'll log into Brian Garcia's account. The password, of course, was change me 123456 exclamation point. And of course, now we have to change the password because that is what the policy said that we had to do. So make this a little bit easier on ourselves here. We'll paste that, and then the new password will be that with an @ sign. And we'll confirm our password change. And now, as we can see, Brian Garcia is now in. Now remember, Brian Garcia had full access to EC2 instances. Let's take a look at if Brian can take a look at everything happening in EC2. And as you can see there, Brian can now launch an instance because he had that policy attached. Now, if he tries to go into RDS, for example, and if he tries to create a database, then Brian does not have the permission to do so. So that's all what policies are. So now when we saw Brian Garcia, he was able to log in without two-factor authentication. But what we're going to do now is we're going to add another policy in order to force multi-factor authentication. So we can create a policy on our own here. Click on JSON, and we have a policy that we can add. You see here is the force MFA policy right here. And when you take a look at the code, a lot of it has to do with MFA here, allowing manage own user MFA. There's a few other MFA actions right here. So we're going to copy this. This will be in the documentation as well. And we will paste that in there. And put this down actually. We'll press next. Get that off. We'll give the policy a name. We'll call it enforce MFA policy. And then we will create the policy. So again, we can go to every user group here and manually add the policy, right? So we can search for enforce. It will be there and we can attach it. However, I like automation a little bit better, so we will go back into Visual Studio Code here, and we have a script called add enforce MFA policy. So with this one, very similar to the other ones, we have the account ID, the list of groups we have here, the policy that you want to add. Again, this is only a variable, it can change. So this will enforce the MFA policy to the account ID, to these groups. Again, it checks if the groups exist, and then you can go through a for loop here and it'll add the policy underscore ARN, which is the enforce MFA policy, to each one of the groups. So again, we will run this, type enough of this to run the bash file here. Okay, so it says it failed here. Let's take a look if we typed in, or we typed the policy in correctly, because the names do have to match. Oh, okay, I see. We made a bit of a typo, guys. This is actually good that we did this, so we know and we can troubleshoot. Okay, so for this purpose, we're actually going to delete that and recreate it. I'm going to keep this in the video because stuff like this can happen when you're on the job. So we're going to, this time, copy and paste all of this and then throw it in here. And then we're going to make sure that we spell it right this time. So enforce MFA policy. All right, so we have it there this time. I've got the microphone in one hand and typing in the other hand. It's a bit difficult, if that's an excuse. So we've got that right there. So we're going to run the script one more time. And this time it will attach to all four groups successfully. And when we go back here and go into user groups, look under client, I wish we'd done that a lot of times. Go down to network admin here, look at permissions, don't even have to refresh. We see that enforce MFA policy is there. So now, when the users log in, they'll have to have MFA set up. So let's go back to Brian Garcia here. I'm actually curious to see if we have Brian Garcia log out and then log back in, what will we see? Oh, okay, there we go. You were signed out of your account, okay. So we're gonna take the account ID here and we're gonna log in with Brian Garcia. And well, we're in, but let's just create MFA through here. So it says you don't have MFA assigned. We'll have to assign it right here. Give it a device name. We'll just call it a name for now. And there are several ways that you can activate MFA. There's a passkey or security key, an authenticator app, and a hardware TOTP token. We're going to use an authenticator app for this one because we have Google Authenticator on our phone. And here it says we don't have permission to do this, actually. Just for purposes, we're going to try to log into a different user, actually. So we're going to use Barbara Brown for this. Let's take a look and see. There's a policy there that showed we didn't have it. So I wonder if we're going to do the same thing. If there'll be a same or a similar issue with Barbara Brown here. Oh, okay. So this time we don't see it. I guess it needs to be a little bit of a sync here for Brian Garcia. Either that or it's a little bit of a bug. So as long as you have Google Authenticator on your phone or Microsoft Authenticator on your phone, which there's a list of compatible applications, of course. And so Twilio, Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, whether you're on Android or iOS, that will do it. You can show QR code there. I'm going to open up Google Authenticator, which you cannot see, but I'll scan a QR code. And what it wants me to do is add the first MFA code, and then I have to wait for a max of 30 seconds for the code to rotate, and then I will enter the second code, which will be available in a few seconds. It will be this. So we will add MFA. Now MFA is added to Barbara Brown's account, and we can do that, or we can show it rather. We can show it by logging back in with Barbara Brown. And it'll ask for the MFA code. So if I take a look at my phone here, the code will be this. Probably should not save that password, by the way. I will not. I'm gonna delete that user in a bit. Oh, actually, let's see, it didn't go through there. So I'm gonna type the password yet again. And then we're going to get the code. Practice makes perfect, obviously. And submits. And this time, Barbara Brown is in through with 2-factor two-factor authentication. So that was the overview of IAM, Identity and Access Management, on Amazon Web Services. So you have a pretty good lab to iterate through, and you can use those scripts, which will be in the documentation, as you wish. This was Rashawn. We'll see you for another project. Thanks a lot for watching.